The amount of man-on-man buggery in Afghanistan is significant. And
did they warn you about it before you went over there?
No. I think there was so many different things about both Iraq and Afghanistan that the learning curve for all of us was so high. Culturally, you don't think about a lot of those things. You just don't. You grow up in America.
Right.
You assume every man is basically like an American male because that's at 26 or 27 years old. You know that there are cultural differences for sure, but I'm telling you, I was in Kuwait for like the first time early on, and the Kuwaitis like to hold hands. Like the dudes like to hold hands, and that's not comfortable. Like for guys.
Weird? Isn't that weird though? Because we do shake hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you don't walk around holding another man's hand. It's just not comfortable in any scenario.
But imagine trying to explain that to someone who didn't understand, like, what makes it gay. Like, at what point in time does, like, holding onto a hand, does it get, like, there's, like, a meter. Like, you can kind of, like, hold on to a hot potato for a couple seconds, and then it'll burn your hand.
After a certain point, you're walking around holding another man's hand, and you've never really done it, probably since you were a kid, maybe holding your dad's hand when you're, like, 3 or 4 years old. And in special forces, they tell you, you have to work with the cultural differences, and they're just talking in general.
Right.
Like they're not specific because they don't know where you're going, and you're going to have to work by, with, and through the host indigenous force. So you have to accept some of the things that the cultural differences and just go with the flow.
Right.
So as a new Green Beret, as SF guys, you're just walking around holding another man's hand. You're so freaked out about it. You're like, oh man. You're like, what the fuck does this mean? Like, you're questioning all your reality. Like, oh my God, and then after a few years, time and repetition and war or whatever, somebody goes to hold your hand and you're like, get the fuck away from me. I'm not doing that, bro. Come on. No, I'm not doing that.
So you gave up after a while?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things you give up, right? You're taught in SF, drink the tea, eat the food, do everything
assimilate.
That they do. Yeah, just completely assimilate. And honestly, like, a lot of that is really good because it does teach you to be a lot more open as far as listening to what they're going through from their tribal plights, like what are they going through from a combat experience, what do they need, and you want to build rapport. That's what you want to do. But rep after rep in a war zone, you kind of get fatigued with that, and then you're like, yeah, let's just get to the dirt here, man. Like, Who do we want to kill? Like, let's get to that. And got it. You don't like that tribe. We don't like that tribe. We don't like this. You don't like that. Cool. Okay, so I'm not going to eat with you because every time I eat with you, I can't shit for like a normal shit for like a year. So we're just going to not do any of that. And
you're telling me you literally
it.
Didn't shit anything but diarrhea for, you said, more than a year?
Yeah, it was years, man. I was living and working with the Afghans, and I went from Iraq, and I did the invasion with Special Forces from the South, and I did multiple rotations in Iraq, both with SF and then with the agency when I went over there. And then when we shut down Iraq in 2009, I turned around and basically went to Afghanistan in 2009. So I went from Iraq to Afghanistan, and then I went from Afghanistan, kind of finished up my CIA combat, I guess, experience, and then went back to the States to do a training thing. But by the time I got to Afghanistan, I had lots of time in Iraq. I had like 4 years on the ground. And Afghanistan was way different, but I was living and working with the Afghanis. I was eating with them. And your job is to not only train, assist, and advise, build rapport, but you're trying to figure it out. So you need to be on the ground with them, living, eating, breathing, sleeping, like the whole thing. And they're what we call the chow hall facilities aren't the cleanliest. You're trying, like you're working with them, you institute different things like soap and water is like a good thing. And it doesn't really matter. You're still going to get sick based on, the water, where is it coming from, what type of well source, like there's
Right.
lots of different variables, obviously.